Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Welcome to the 2025 year-end recap of the Roofing Success Podcast. This year's been about a fundamental shift in our industry, a move towards sophisticated, system-driven leadership. On this year's episodes, we've traveled through the psychological roots of business ownership to cutting-edge artificial intelligence. And today we're revisiting the moments that define 2025, and hopefully this will set the pace for your 2026. So we begin the year by looking in the mirror. Many of our guests reminded us that you can't build a great company until you build yourself. And as Terry Gwaltney famously put it, we aren't just in the roofing business, we're in the business of developing people. So here's a clip from episode 245 with Terry Gwaltney, and another one from episode 243 with George Boudreau on this topic.
So that whole mantra, we're a leadership development company that just happens to provide home improvement solutions. We start them out of the gate. They're reading a book every 2 weeks, during a 6-week onboarding for a salesperson. In an industry where many times is riding the truck with Bill 3 times. And, if you think you can make it to the next paycheck, we'll just see who sticks. It's just a big different approach and a much higher, I think, investment on the front end. But when you gather those people, then the intentionality and the reward system and the recognition and the compensation all begin to build on, this is how I'm scaling this culture. Like this is us. And the guy on the forklift knows what it is, just like the guy that's running CFO in the accounting department.
And I think there was also a part of me that much of my business was built on the back of insecurity. I came to realize, kind of on the tail end of those years, I realized that I was trying to prove to my father that I was worthy enough and get his approval. And I was trying to prove to some of my peer friends who were successful that I also could be successful. And I was trying to also prove to the guy in middle school who made fun of me, or the person on Facebook who I think may be doubting my intelligence or something, that I could in fact do it. So I was unaware of that for a long time. And then whenever I achieved the success, it started to occur to me, it was like, man, my dad actually always loved me and didn't need me to be, my friends don't care, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks or, so I was like, so I didn't have that driver anymore, and it didn't matter. That didn't matter. And I moved into more of a place of, what do I want to do?
As I think personal evolution is what allows you to step out of the savior complex and empower your team to actually own their roles. Once the leadership is in place, the focus shifts to the community. As we know, being the best known roofer is more profitable than just trying to be the best. But I wanted to highlight how local omnipresence, community involvement creates a level of trust that no digital ad can replicate. So here are clips from episode 283 with Taylor Spears and episode 284 with Randy Hurtado that show this strategy in action.
One of the easiest things that you can do, especially to get your name out there, your face out there, for if you're a new rep or an owner that's trying to start up a company, being the mayor of your town and going through this little training of being the most recognizable person when you walk into a store, walk into a restaurant, or anywhere that you go, you want to be as recognizable as the mayor of your town, whether it's your name or your face. Ideally, both those together, because that works out great. But every time you walk into a shopping center or a Walmart and you see somebody that at the end, and when you are getting ready to leave and the old man is right there, he's checking on receipts and everybody's just flying by and waving him off. If you just take the time to speak to that person and give him the time of day and ask him how his day is going, and ask him if what he's been up to. Like, are you watching the game this weekend? Who cares? Just treat him like a human. Treat him something different than how everybody else is doing. And you will get a result from that, because what you're doing is you're not doing what mainstream media is doing. You're not doing what everybody else is doing, because then you and them get stuck in this little robotic method of communication. Kind of like I always tell everybody, and I'm guilty of doing it in the beginning of this conversation, was, how are you doing? I'm great. How are you doing? I'm great. Nice weather. Yeah, nice weather. Think it's going to rain? No, I think it'll hold off. All right. Have a nice day. And then you leave. Every time you go to a little market and you're checking out and you're just grabbing an energy drink, and that's the little conversation that goes back and forth. But instead, if you try to break up that monotony of that conversation, the robotic theme, and you just look at their name tag and you say, hey, good morning, Sally. And you just use their name or throw something else in there, give them a smile, and you ask them about the drink that you're getting. Grab a random drink and say, hey, Sally, do you know anything about this? Like, is this a good flavor? Because I've never seen it before. And then who knows? Maybe Sally ends up being a caffeine addict and she gives you all the information when it comes to that energy drink, or she recommends another one. And the recommendation has always bit me in the butt a little bit whenever I go to a restaurant and I'm speaking with the server, and we always have great conversations. And that's actually how I picked up my wife. She was the bartender. So it's a great skill to have. And now every time we go,
it's a great skill.
And I love to ask them like what their favorite entree is, not a recommendation. I like to ask what their favorite meal is. And typically I'll order that meal and they're like, oh, really? And the reaction that they get, because when you go to a restaurant, you see a server all the time, or people are like, I don't know what to get. Like, what do you recommend? And they're just like, oh, I don't know what to recommend, because now in their eyes, they're trying to pick something for you specifically. Yeah. And they're thinking, they look at a guy and they're like, all right, he wants steak, or they have to already start to have those snap judgments about you. And they have to start to figure it out. And that actually, it's a lot of times it's a negative for people, because now they're put in an uncomfortable situation. And to make it a more positive, ask them what they love to eat, what their favorite entree is. If you want to know what drink to get, ask them what their favorite drink is. But then when they say it, if you say something along the lines of, that sounds nasty, I'm going to get this, you just have to suck it up. If you order what they suggest, automatically their eyes light up. And that's a great way to keep the conversation going and then expand on that and keep it moving in the right direction. And you take away all the tension, because everybody says, what do you suggest? Or do the robotic method of great weather. Yeah, great weather. Have a great day. So just break up that monotony.
Our very first thing we did was we reached out to the local malt shop. It's literally called the Malt Shop in Weatherford. And we knew that it was a local place that locals loved. And so we reached out and we asked the owner, we said, what is the slowest day of the week for you? And they're like, Wednesdays by far. I'm like, great. So in 2 Wednesdays, DT Roofing would like to buy all the malts from 11 to 1. And we want you to put it up on your Facebook page and we'll put it up on ours. And we'll just make this place, busy on that Wednesday. You would not believe the line, that the foot traffic and the people just going through the drive-through just to get their free malt. But they all got a chance to talk to one of our guys and get introduced to us and what have you. That's the type of community stuff that we love doing, is getting in front of people, shaking their hands, telling them in person a little bit about, because you can do the ads, you can do the Facebook sponsored ads and stuff like that, but nothing beats me standing in front of you and telling you our story, telling you what we offer.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Roofers, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. These relationships are the one thing big box companies and private equity can't steal from you. But scaling requires control, and control requires data. And this year, we hammered home that the no numbers, no business philosophy. So if you've outsourced your books and don't even have your own login, you're flying blind. Here are clips from episode 279 with Andy Keys and episode 263 with John Brose highlighting this point.
I think it all starts like the decision to outsource something or hire for that same thing is like, in my opinion, if you're building a team and you're building a business and you've got big ambitions, because like I'll talk to guys and they'll want $100 million roofing company and they've got one other employee. And then if that's what you want, why are you outsourcing your books? Why are you outsourcing your call center? Why are you outsourcing all these things? Because you're not going to get anywhere unless you build a team. You need to build a team. And then in my opinion, when you're early on, the most important thing to do is build a team with long-term bought-in people that are going to be in it with you. And if we're just hiring basic assistants or outsourcing things, well, now we're the only one with the mind for the business. We have no real leverage or real support in the business. So I don't recommend outsourcing everything in the beginning because you think you need to keep your expenses low. I think you need to build a team and then grow the business because now you have a team of people. I see a lot of guys jammed up with inside sales activities because they don't have an assistant. So they're fielding the calls and they're running an appointment and they don't have an assistant. There's no way you as the owner running appointments that way and running sales that way is doing a good job of following up. So like hire the admin assistant, show them the sales pipeline and teach them how to support you in sales so that you sell more roofs. Because if you do that, you will sell more roofs because you're not following up with anybody. But all the way back to the books. The books is a big one. And I've done probably 7 QuickBooks Zooms in the last 2 weeks, and all 7 of them outsourced their books. And most of them didn't even have their QuickBooks login. And they would all tell me the same thing before we started. No, my bookkeeper's good. And it's like, what are you basing that off of? Because what do you know about their books? How do you know they're good? Because they know more than you? Because they seem smart? You don't know if they're good. Let's go into QuickBooks. So we go in there and the balance sheet's jacked up. There's truck payments on their income statement. Their cost of goods sold jacked up. They're 2 months behind on material invoices. So their gross profit looks really strong, but they're 2 months behind on material purchases. So really their gross profit's 15% less. The advertising category is just one lump sum of advertising. They have no idea where they're spending their money. Commission, all sorts of problems to where they have no idea where they're at in their business. And it's like, how do you make the next hire? How do you set a marketing budget? How do you do any of those things if you have no idea where you're at in your business? You don't know what you're making on the jobs. You don't know what your overhead is. I've had meetings with guys where we're going through, because the CRM can be powerful for job costing. We've always used QuickBooks because just old school, I guess, but we just do our bookkeeping correctly in QuickBooks. It's no extra work to pull a P&L on the job when it's done. So we don't even use CRMs for job costing, but you can. The tools are in there. But that has nothing to do with your rent, your insurance, your office supplies. Like you have no idea, your payroll expenses, which is a giant category, your marketing expenses, which is giant. So I've had guys that say, okay, yeah, we priced a job at 40% gross profit and our overhead's 12, so we're going to net 28. I'm like, oh, that's great, dude. You're netting 28. That's amazing. Then we go into QuickBooks and their overhead's 30%. Like, dude, you're pricing jobs as if your overhead's 12, but your overhead's actually 30, and you don't even have your QuickBooks login to know this. So all these types of examples are things I'm seeing. And I keep telling these guys, QuickBooks is not just to file your taxes. So like, yes, we file our taxes. So we need a bookkeeper, we need a CPA to file our taxes, but the bookkeeper and the CPA aren't roofers. We keep our books to grow a healthy, profitable business and make decisions. It's how we make decisions is the numbers in our business. And the CPA and the bookkeeper don't know how you run your business, so you need a say in your books. We've always done bookkeeping in-house my whole career. I mean, I did it personally myself in the beginning, and then I hired for it. So we've always owned our bookkeeping. So if you look at my P&L, it's structured exactly how I want to be able to see where my business is at without having to click into anything, without having to question anything. It's not that difficult to do that. So with all the times I've seen the outsourced books, I just feel like it's not an option from what I've seen of guys doing.
We have what we call our 4+1 C's, right? So we measure everything. So it's going to be capture, convert, create, control culture, which if you put it into real words, I guess, is going to be marketing, sales, production, admin, and then people. So one of the first steps that we do is we help identify where those blind spots are and those gaps in each one of those segmentations. So a lot of people just focus on marketing or just focus on sales or just focus on, whatever it is, the financial controls, the KPIs. But the real answer is it's everything. You have to get a good broad scale of where it's at. So we created our own growth gauge, if you will, plus a behavioral assessment where we develop a dope chart to get started, right? So we identified like areas. So like if you think about a dope chart, you got an XY axis is like, what is the most prime person that's ready to go? And so we kind of started with, is it clear or obscure, right? So like that's the first thing. So any SOP, anything that we're asking, we're trying to identify, is it very clear on what you're doing or is it obscure? Is it simple or is it complex? So ultimately, if it's simple and clear, like this is easy to scale, right? If it's complex and clear, let's say marketing, we see this a lot is like it's complex because they have 11 different marketing streams. It's complex, but it's clear because they know their numbers and they know where they want to go. It's a little harder to scale, but you can scale it, right? And so if you take marketing again, let's say that it's very simple. All they do is door knock, right? It's very simple, but they don't have any controls in place because they don't have any other revenue channels or any other way to bring in leads. It's simple, but it's obscure because it's very hard to actually scale. And then if you go to complex and obscure, like it's gonna be okay. So I don't know, the sales reps just do what they want to bring in leads. Like we don't even know how we want them to get the leads. So we kind of identified as just like just back in grade school, right? It's A, B, C, or D. And so we developed this dope chart that we've used for years and years and years. Like anytime that we're analyzing a SOP, right, we want to make sure that it's simple to understand and it's clear, so that the communication is there. So, and the same thing with your leadership score and culture score, right? Like, we will grade that as well. Like, are they a very directive person and like they don't have any empathy and don't look like different types of leadership scores. So like if somebody's very direct, so it's very clear, right? But it's complex because they don't have this back and forth with the employees as well. So like it goes really, really deep on to build this dope chart, if you will. So, and dope, if you know what that is, it's data on previous engagements.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Our friend Dave Carroll. That's right.
Dave Carroll made that clear, right? But that's actually a military term, right? It's data on previous engagement. So like you're just trying to identify where does everything lay and you're just doing a cluster point, right? So you're just finding these clusters of data. And that's what we do is we have a whole questionnaire and we take those answers and then it clusters it on this.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. With clear metrics, your project managers and sales reps can finally stop guessing and start knowing how to win. I think that you'll agree that the consumer has changed this year. They're more guarded. They want speed. They want transparency. We've seen the complete shift from closing to decision consulting becoming the norm in sales. Here are clips from my fellow RSRA mentors talking about this. Episode 270 with Deshaun Bryant and episode 261 with Cody Landels.
What really inspired this was I fly around the country and I coach and train numerous door-to-door sales teams, right? And I started noticing that sales guys were losing control of the sales process. So they would be like, 1, 3, 4 layers deep into the sales process. And now the homeowner's starting to flip it on them with deductible talk, or they want estimates, or, they trying to figure out what the sales reps is going to do for them outside of just helping them get a brand new roof. So I went to like really assessing and studying the way these sales reps been working. And I'm like, what's the gap? I'm like, first of all, these guys have no process. Second of all, they're running away from the word no. So they're running away from the word no. And don't confuse the word no with an objection, right? So I don't want nobody up on my roof. I don't want my rates to go up. I don't want to get dropped. Like, that's not what I mean by chasing the art of the no, like the art of the no. What I mean by chasing the no is, if there is something to kill this deal, let's get it out the way early. I mean, before we even do a roof inspection, before we sign paperwork, before we get the insurance company involved, before we get to this place of picking our shingles and all of these things, if no is to kill the deal, let's get it out the way early. So no is the second best answer you can hear in the sales process, whether you believe it or not. Right. And sales reps don't believe that. They're like, oh, when I hear the word no, that means the sales is over. And I'm like, actually, when you get the word no out earlier, you save yourself a lot of time, money, and resources. So as I've been studying this, it's a phenomenal book called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. Right. And what I've learned, Jim, is people read books, but people don't study books. Right. They read a book, put it down, another book. So I done read the book once. I went back this time and I studied the book. So I really started studying this art of getting to the no sooner than later. So now what we've been teaching sales reps is the door-to-door proclamations, right? The door-to-door proclamations, which allows us to get to the no's faster than just begging for business, right? Just throwing up a sales pitch and hoping somebody say yes, when it actually now we're having conversations over presentations, right? So the purpose of the conversation is for us to, first of all, establish the rules of engagement, to see if you're going to allow me to serve you in the way I see best fit possible. And if you ain't going to even allow me to lead the sales process the way I want to lead it from start to finish, let's just get to this no now. Let's just get to this. It don't even make sense for us to move forward no more. Right. It don't even make sense for us to even go to that next step, because you're not going to allow me to be the practitioner and take over this process. And unconsciously, what sales reps don't understand is the homeowner wants to feel slightly vetted. They want you to show that, hey, you got a process, you got a routine, you got a way of doing things, right? And as they see you start to step into your expertise, they actually lower their guard. They take a step back and they let you take over the sales process, right? So I'm teaching guys to get to the no sooner. We reversing the roles of the objection, right? So if we know a homeowner got anywhere between a 1% to 3% deductible, we saying, hey, so Mr. Jim, the average deductible we typically deal with is anywhere between $2,000 to $7,000. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with making that type of commitment before we even move forward. No, I don't think I can handle that type of commitment, even if we was to offer you financing and show you a way you could pay that for 24 months, zero interest. No, that ain't something I want to do. Completely understand. Hey, I hope you find somebody else that can better serve you. Here go my business card. If you change your mind, you give me a holler.
Yep. Another piece of advice I'd give during this time period would be speed as well. Just, the old saying, time heals all wounds. The first time you have that little water spot on your ceiling, it's the end of the world. Your house is collapsing. Do we have to get a hotel tonight? 3 days later, it's just a little brown spot. A week later, it's like, hasn't that been there the whole time? It was there when we moved in. So, if you present now 8 days later, I'm not as motivated anymore. I'm just like, yeah, well, but if it happened last night and you called me this morning and we're talking later today, and we go over the photo report and I show you the photos that, hey, this is what you're seeing inside. This is what's happening on the rooftop. You're like, I knew my whole home was going to collapse. I knew it. And then it's like, all right, I got to get something done. because we're right next to what just happened that gave you enough activation energy to call me. But every single day, you're going to start, that's going to drop down. And then also, if you think about the other people you're competing against, if I get my quote, if they call in Monday and we speak Monday, if you're not till Friday, they might not even sit down with you. But also, if now you stretch a week out to get them a quote, maybe now they get 5 quotes instead of 3, or maybe now they take 2 weeks to make a decision instead of 3 days, or maybe now they take 2 months instead of 2 weeks. You're giving them the perception and the kind of the permission to take longer to make that decision. You're like, hey, it's not a big deal. Versus with us, it's like, no, you got your roof is leaking. That's a huge deal. We should get this taken care of tomorrow. And they go, okay, yeah, I want to get it taken care of tomorrow. And we can now I'm matching your urgency.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. If you and your team aren't trained on AI yet, you're already falling behind. Competitors using AI are generating more leads, closing jobs faster, and running leaner. The AI roofing revolution gives your team the training to implement AI so you stay ahead, not scramble to catch up. Don't wait until you're losing. Get trained now at the link in the description or the sponsors page of the Roofing Success Podcast website. We closed this year on the most pivotal topic of all, artificial intelligence. This isn't just a tech upgrade, it's a bicycle for the mind that's rewriting the rules on how customers find you, and not long from now, labor. Here's a clip from our top episode of the year, episode 260 with Marcus Sheridan, on how customers will find you, and a future thinking vision from episode 280 with Adam Sand.
They can see the sales people that work for you, their images, their bios, maybe a video about them, and then they can choose which one they work with. Closing rates double every single time we implement this. So if someone chooses a salesperson versus is given a salesperson, there's literally 100% greater chance that they will buy from you. Crazy, huh? So that, I think, it's no different than, there's a reason why we like Uber more than taxis, because we don't know if the taxi is going to stink, if it's going to be a terrible experience, if it's going to be beat up. Uber's very consistent, and we feel like we had a choice in the game. Well, being able to choose your salesperson is the future of selling. Okay, I can tell you that right now. Another example of this, which is a mega trend, and this is already a trend in roofing. We're going to see it throughout home services. I am completely invested in this, kind of like you're invested in agents. I'm very, very invested in this next type of self-service tool, which is a self-pricing tool. All right, and I call them pricing estimators. So the first question somebody has when they know they need a new roof, first question, like they look up at the roof, or they look up their ceiling and there's like a leak coming through, or they look up and they're like, my shingles are shot, whatever it is. First question is, roughly, how much is this going to cost? What's this going to set us back? Are we in the game? Can we even afford this? Like, these are all the questions that somebody has. And so if you don't address it in that moment, many of the people, if they can't find it, they'll stop the journey right there and they don't do further research. If they're allowed to get if they're allowed to get that initial question answered, are we in the game here financially? Then they'll start to research companies. They'll start to get further questions answered. Then they'll fill out a form or make a call. And then the sales process starts. Then they'll talk to a salesperson. And then the final question of the buyer's journey is the same as the first with one deviation. First question was roughly, what's it going to cost? The final question is, so exactly what's this going to cost? So they're the same questions. You bookend with cost questions when it comes to the buyer's journey. So what a pricing estimator does, and I have a ton of data on this. Why? Because I started a software company called PriceGuide.ai. And PriceGuide allows someone to quickly and easily, with the help of AI, of course, put a pricing estimator on their website. Now, there's different types of these tools in the roofing industry. I made this tool that was specialized for anybody in home services. And so if you wanted to have an estimator on your website for a new roof, let's say you want to have an estimator on your site for replacing gutters, or I don't care what it is. I mean, like literally anything for solar, you can create multiple estimators with this tool. is a series of questions, just like if someone came to you right now and said to you, what would it cost for a new roof? You'd say, oh, I can answer roughly, but I got to ask you some questions. Okay, what are the questions? You're going to ask questions like square footage. You're going to ask questions like materials, and there's just going to be a series of things that you're going to need to know in order to give them a general estimate. Now, once they get a general estimate, man, they are really feeling good because they're like, finally, I have a sense for things. They're much more likely to do business with you.
I think AccuLynx and Verisk is a big one. I think that you're going to see that be the preferred software, kind of like how Dash did it in water restoration mediation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to see that. I think you'll see it from ServiceTitan. I think you'll see integrated platforms, right? More of a API type connection or an MCP type connection.
Yep.
But the other piece of it is like, you got to be able to get the work done. I have a client in Hawaii who's successfully been the exclusive provider for island insurance for like 7 years. But it was because they have 130 in-house installers, and their entire market is, an island that's 42 miles across. So it's easy to solve the problem because what they care about is, can you do the work? Can you get the work done? Well, as the labor market is getting kind of like more legitimate, as the immigration problem, right, with the fact that there's a lot of undocumented workers, which carries a huge liability, is that kind of gets cleaned up, and large companies can lobby for a temporary foreign worker program or a labor market investigation study that turns into some kind of pipeline to solve the labor problem, because not a lot of kids coming out of college want to be roofers. As I believe that, again, being directionally correct, as robots get on roofs, right?
That's right.
I think that the can you get the work done problem will be solved, right? And because previously that's mostly what the moat was around the small roofing company, was the sheer difficulty of hurting the install capacity. Because you're dealing with America's forgotten sons, you're dealing with technology averse communities like the Amish, right? That they're not allowed to have a phone. You know what I mean? So someone else has to handle the logistics. Or you're dealing with the, undocumented or Hispanic, or even just the migrant community that is looking for the opportunity, and whatever pipeline of those is coming into the country and falls into the roofing trade. That is a logistical nightmare. And it previously, the only way to do that was you had to have a lot more people to throw at the logistics of running that. But like trucking, right? I get that like a lot of people don't love the fact that like we're bringing in people from other countries that don't know how to drive and giving them trucking jobs. But the fact remains that the trucks will soon drive themselves. And this is just the middle stop, right? Which is a flood of immigrant truck drivers to create these massive logistics and shipping firms. And eventually the trucks will just drive themselves.
Yeah.
And the
that's what I see a lot. That's where I see it a lot too, and that could be 2030. Like there's an argument to be made that it's already there in 2030. Like Elon gets that hand figured out on his bot. You know what I mean? Like that's what there's going to be the labor gets the labor can go away, and I love the way you put that. What happens? This is the insurance market, right? So what percentage of, I've never actually looked at this stat, what percentage of roofs replaced in the United States or in Canada or maybe the two of them or whatever, let's just call it the United States, maybe wherever you find a stat on it or know a stat on it, what percentage of roofs replaced every year are replaced through an insurance claim or through a retail transaction?
Well, it changes every year. So sometimes it's 30%, sometimes it's 70%, because sometimes you pull time and money forward. I just spoke with a guy, Brian Ward from Quality Roofing Solutions, and he kind of said, look, this year's kind of a down year. We're up on market share, but we're down in total volume. But we probably pulled a lot of roofs forward with the storms that happened in common storm areas like Tampa, which doesn't frequently get hit by storms, did last year. And so Tampa's market is probably down this year overall. So
it is.
The number fluctuates, and those fluctuations are something that can be managed larger when you have a large roofing company that can move labor force around and kind of respond, like FEMA, right? Like Why do you have to have FEMA? Because sometimes one state needs help and another state is just fine. So you got to be able to send them to California for a fire, and then you got to be able to send them to New Orleans for a flood, and then you got to send them to Texas because they got snow for the first time in 10 years.
Yep.
So, the same will exist where the means of production will kind of flow to the larger companies. And this is, to speak to the Elon thing, like there's a company by Brett Adcock called Figure, which is like arguably further ahead than him.
Yep.
You're seeing like in large industrial machines, the yellow iron, you're seeing another massive tech company that is basically wiring in machine learning and AI and algorithm sensors, all this kind of stuff. The biggest thing is the sensors. You have to create the sensors. That's what allowed the military to get ahead. That's where Palantir came from, is because that's where Scale.ai got big, was in the photos that they could take and the image processing that they could do and how that impacted manufacturing. The sensors are the biggest way to measure like where something is going, is if there are sensors being applied to a particular mode of work, then you will see an eventual disruption. And so the sensors aren't really in roofing yet. You got some guys trying to make a little robot that crawls across a roof and install shingles, but they don't have sensors. They're just trying to mimic the work. But when you can sense it, and that's where the humanoid robot thing comes in, because now the sensor is kind of applicable to anything that a human can do, because the whole world is designed around humans.
Designed around humans.
That's right. Wide as a car is. The car is as wide as a car is because a train wheels were that wide, and that's why roads became what they were. And so they could just, there's these uniform measurements that start to make it easier to apply the next thing. Yeah. I think an interesting concept might be to see where warranty claims come in. Because if a roofing company was to take the approach of like, you know what, maybe we're not going to go get in bed with the insurance company. Maybe we're going to have a warranty department. And if those shingle manufacturers want to offer these unlimited wind warranties and make these bold claims, we're going to hold them to that. And instead of having to fight the insurance company, because insurance, finance, private equity, roofing, maybe they say, you know what, we're going to start holding the manufacturer to their claims, and we're going to create a warranty department. Rather than trying to get a customer to pay a $3,000 deductible, we're just going to get the roof covered under warranty, right? And we're going to have a warranty department, kind of like how the manufacturers have dealerships, and those dealerships call warranties, and they navigate that process. But it could, it all comes back to, well, then what can you do as a roofing company?
To really bring this home, we spent time with Rosalind Burgess on episode 278. She spoke about AI not from a tech standpoint, or not only from a tech standpoint, but from a human capital standpoint. She explained how to close the trust gap and train your employees to use AI as a tool for multiplication, not just addition. Here are a couple of clips from that episode.
Whether it's leadership or culture, anything that you are trying to move the needle on in your organization. We have one person that's the owner of that, and they're the leader on that, and that's the only leader. All they can do is add, right? They can add to the numbers. They can do one more person and one more person and one more person. But if I train and equip my team to also be leaders, right? And now I have leaders of leaders, and those people are empowered and enabled to be able to go out and help train other people. We now move into the stage of multiplication. And multiplication means that we're getting adoption significantly faster than those who are doing addition. Yeah, well, in one of our past conversations, we talked about strategic planning for your teams, strategic talent management, and looking ahead in your organization. And I think you as an owner have a responsibility to be thinking about how your org chart is going to look different and what that's going to mean for your teams, and then casting that vision for them. Like, you have to write them into the narrative and help them see why these tools are going to be beneficial for them and what it's going to mean when they're doing different tasks. Right. One of the things I like to say or ask is like, what would you do if you didn't have to do that thing that's slowing you down? Like, what's that thing that you've been itching to get to and that you want to get done, but every day you just feel like I don't have time to get it done in my job? inviting employees into that conversation and into the narrative of like what the future of the organization is going to look like is a really important step to helping them feel comfortable and confident. If you're out there talking about how like, oh, I can't wait until this replaces everybody on my team, like, what do you think that's going to do for your employees? I started my career, Jim, in manufacturing, and I was Lean certified, Lean Six Sigma certified. And the whole concept of efficiency and improving your processes is that you don't lean people out of a job or they won't adopt it. They'll be resistant, right? Why would I do this thing that you're giving to me if it just is going to mean that I don't have a job anymore, right? So it's a similar concept with AI tools is like you're bringing efficiency into your organization. So they need to see what they're getting back. What could you offer? What could you be providing? And, maybe this is just like the eternal optimist in me in this like utopian society that we could live in. But maybe instead of just thinking about the profit and the, what you're going to get in your organization, maybe you start thinking about what you're going to give back to your employees. What kind of culture are you going to have where it's like, oh, you know what? We actually did, like, we can move to a 4-day work week because of all the efficiency that we gave, or like, hey, we have more flexibility now in our practices to be able to offer you more time to go and see your kids' sports or do whatever is important to you, fishing or hiking, whatever it is, right? So starting to think about like, you as an organization are going to have gains from this if you're implementing it. But if you really want to get the most out of it, you need to be thinking about how you're sharing those gains with your employees so that they can be attracted to this idea. And again, like write them into the narrative, write them into the future of this so they see what's in it for them.
2025 has shown us that the wolf is always chasing us as business owners. AI is chasing the industry, but those who lean in will find it is actually the wind at their back. By implementing the 5 C's, capture, convert, create, control, and culture, and leveraging the PhD in your pocket that AI provides your company, this will ensure your company won't just survive, it will dominate. Thank you for being a part of this journey. We've been sharing the journeys and lessons of roofing contractors for over 5 years now with over 280 episodes, and I'm really grateful every day to be able to bring this to you. Thank you to our sponsors, Job Nimbus Marketing, Day 41 Thrive, the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, and the AI Roofing Revolution, now AI Ready. Please check them out and support those who support your success. Scaling a roofing company today is like upgrading from a single engine prop plane to a stealth jet. In the old model, the pilot had to do everything manually and could only see what was right in front of them. In 2026 and beyond, the model has become, you now have a complex dashboard of data, KPIs, advanced navigation systems in that AI that allow you to fly through storms that would ground everyone else. And so I want to wish you all success in 2026. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.